brand it properly.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I completely
You said
agree.
You said properly. I don't. What do you mean by that? You're laughing about what I'm about to
Because you
say.
included socks was what I was.
Well, some speakers don't wear socks.
Welcome to another edition of Here's Why. I'm Jimmy Talbert, and I'm joined with my friend Dom Faussette, who's a leadership speaker and executive coach. And today we're going to be talking about how to create persuasive messaging, persuasive speeches, and persuasive presentations. So that's a lot to run through.
That is a lot. I think we're gonna be here for a while.
We just might.
We
It's going to be exciting. Yeah. I hope you're not going. You don't have any plans this afternoon.
I don't, or tonight, matter of fact. So we're good.
So, Dom, when I talk about persuasive speeches or persuasive presentations, what comes to mind first? What do you think of?
When I think of body language.
Okay.
I think of audience engagement. I think of how the person feels that either was present in the audience or on screen. Mm-hmm. Right. Those are some of the things that I think about when it comes to that. I'm more of a in-person presenter. I know your expertise or your background has forced you to become outstanding in the virtual space. So
yeah.
I guess that's probably why we're together. Not together, but we're doing this at the same time.
Yeah, I'm glad you clarified that in case anyone was concerned.
Just in case.
Or had questions. Yeah, I mean, I think about things, I guess, less related to body language.
Okay.
Because for anyone out, I have a lot of experience doing webinars and doing things like that are less in a live format and a lot of times less on camera. And so my thought comes to sort of voice tone and speed
mm-hmm.
and what they're looking at.
Right.
But that's not always me either.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I understand that, and it's just a matter of being aware of it and doing things that I can control to keep people engaged.
Right. Keep the needle moving forward in the eye of your audience.
Yeah, exactly. So, I guess what I'm trying to.
Are you looking at your notes right now? That's what's happening?
Yeah,
it's all good. Can I look at your notes too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are we on the second one?
Yeah.
Okay, no, the first one. We're on the second one.
No, we're on the second one.
All right.
Absolutely.
So the question is, what you teach compared to what or how you make them feel. You know, it's interesting. I think everybody's different, right? And this is what I love about a live audience. You can see the eye contact. Like if I come closer to the stage, to the front of the stage, I typically don't want to yell. Like I'm prior military ex-cop. I'm very verbose, and
You can just say loud.
Okay, right. I like the word verbose. I found it in a fortune cookie yesterday. But when you're further back from the stage, and I think it's just like on camera, it allows you to be louder, and you don't have to whisper. But when you're louder, just like on camera, you want your arms to go up, but when you're bringing in a point, you want to slow it down, like you stated earlier, and bring your hands in if you're going to use your hands.
Yeah, and in sort of the webinar space and things like that, I would use the speed of my voice quite a bit, like you mentioned. Slow it way down when you're trying to emphasize something, and then when I'm trying to, build the momentum, start, hammering things and listing them off and as far as what the message I'm trying to get across to emphasize some emotion because
definitely
they can't
emotion.
See me.
And I think, and I've seen a couple of the webinars. I mean, not live. I've seen one. I've seen 3 minutes of one. Let me just be crystal clear on that. But what I see is that you talk to the camera, and this is something that people miss out on, even doing lives, is they look at themselves while they're talking as opposed to looking at that little dot in their phone. That's the camera. Like one of the exercises I want you to do while you're watching this, do a quick 10-second video of yourself talking, looking at yourself on your phone, and then do a 10-second video, just say your ABCs, looking at the actual camera. And then look at them at the same time if you can. If not, look at them concurrently, and you'll see the difference in audience engagement, whether you're on stage or on a webinar or doing a live stream. You want to always look in the camera, unless, of course, you have a sexy guest like the one who's here. Well, I'm the guest, you're the host, whatever. somebody to your right. But anyways, I digress.
Someone here with you.
We can say
Right.
that. I should have just started with that.
Absolutely,
Better,
you could have.
yeah, I sure should have.
I mean, another thing that I would do, because everyone's on listen-only mode, another tactic I found is asking questions and just getting people to start using the chat and making things interactive.
Right.
Because again, it's drawing that feeling of being live with in a digital presence.
That makes sense.
I usually start a lot of them with, all right, so we have people on here from all around the world. Let's go ahead and list off some places where people are. Go ahead and fill into the chat wherever you're calling in from. You go through New York, Florida.
Now,
London.
don't do that if you only have 4 people show up on your live. Like, don't try. And I've seen this before. We've all seen it. Don't try to make your webinar look grander than what it is. I did one last night. 4 people showed up.
Judge your. You got to know your audience.
Not going to ask that question.
Yeah.
I know. 2 of you are in New York. The other 2 are here in Phoenix. Like, I knew that. We all knew that. One of the things I do with a smaller audience is I make them get on camera.
You make them turn on their cameras as well.
Yeah, I make them, and I'm not. You have to have a good pulse on your audience to be able to tell people what they're going to do. But at the end of the day, people like instruction.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And do you feel like that's for your benefit, for their benefit, or the benefit of everything?
I think it's the benefit of everybody. So half of it's me, and I need to be able to see your eyes. If I'm taking the time to do something for free to educate you based off something I've learned that's going to help your business move forward, I need you to be 100% present.
Sure.
Right? I teach that in a lot of my coaching. But then on the flip side, I need you, the viewer, to own, hey, look, I need not to have distractions because I'm here to learn. And it's 30 minutes.
Yeah, you definitely keep their engagement much higher.
Now you have hundreds of people show up on your webinars. Probably can't do that.
Yeah. It would definitely complicate things.
A smidge. A smidge.
Just a little bit. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about when you're structuring your speeches and your, I still call them presentations.
That's totally fine.
I know you're not going through a slide deck in most of your speeches.
Yeah, I'm not.
But
still a presentation.
It's still a presentation. When you're structuring those, talk to me about kind of the framework that you work through to get things the way you want it, to make them persuasive and make them
totally,
drive people to take action.
Let me explain to you how the talk starts. It starts by somebody hiring you to come to an event to speak. So I'm not talking webinars, but I'm just talking about an in-person event. You're on stage as a speaker, and the way that I fill a lot of that room in is by asking the person that's hiring me 2 things. 1, what's an example of a speaker that came that you loved? What's an example of a speaker that came that you hated? Because I need to make sure that I exceed what they loved and I don't do what they hated.
Absolutely.
A lot of speakers will just, oh, you want to come speak? Boom, 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 here's what I'll bring.
They have the same speech no matter
what. And it's boring, right? And then I ask, understand that the meeting planner, however they found you. And if you suck, it makes them look horrible.
Yeah.
So I ask them this question: what is it you would like me to do from stage, or topics you want me to cover that's going to make you look the best to your boss? And they'll always say to me, no speaker has ever asked me that.
That's it. That's interesting. Especially in the paid speaking world,
yes.
You think that you would get that more because people want.
You think it's common sense? It's not.
Or want the jobs.
Right. I want continual relationships.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then understand that oftentimes, keynote or not, they're looking for more than one speaker. People want more bang for their buck. So here's a tip for you. This is what I do. I will ask them, and I know the answer, how many speakers do you need for this day event? Well, we would love to have like 2 or 3. Okay, cool. Have you found 2 other speakers plus myself? No? Okay, I have a cachet of speakers. It's like they're not in a trunk, but I have a Rolodex of speakers. Dang it, contact list. There we go. I'm aging myself of speakers. So now I've just made their job easier. I've taken weight off of their plate. And my reason for doing that is if they have a budget of $20,000 and they're going to split it amongst 3 people, nay, you give me the $20,000 and I determine where the funds go and how they get there, right? And depending upon the experience of the speaker that I bring on under my brand, Will depend on how much they get paid.
Based on your cachet of speakers.
Based off my cachet of speakers. That's CACHE with the on top. But anyways, don't judge. You judged me just now. But let's get into the actual talk. Speaking, understand, is 80% entertainment, 20% education. For example, if you and I were to sit here and just go down a list, boring.
Right.
But we banter. Like, we do this in person.
Yeah.
So that's why it's easy for us to be on camera.
Pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, it is. This is a little bit more PC.
Yeah.
And we're not talking computers. But that wasn't that funny, but it was. Where was I going with? I know where I was going.
Entertainment.
80% entertainment, 20% education. If a fifth grader can understand it, a 50-year-old will buy it. So understand why you're on stage or why you're presenting.
Yep.
Oftentimes it's to sell. It should be 9 times out of 10 to sell. You're told that you can't because they paid you a lump sum up front. But make them smile, make them laugh, make them think. That should be the cadence of your talk. And I think in webinars, is it the same type of cadence?
It's absolutely no different.
Okay.
In fact, you were the first person I've met who, because I've explained it to people before as far as what you're making them feel. And that rhythm that's set.
Totally.
Right? And you can get into that a little bit more, but that's something that was taught to me probably 7 years ago or so. By someone who I considered a great speaker.
Got it.
And anytime I've brought it up to anyone else, they had never heard of it either.
Wow, that's amazing.
I figured he made it up until I heard you say it.
Who is the he?
Chad Kirby.
Don't know him.
Yeah, good guy.
I'm sure he's a great guy.
Yeah.
But
fantastic speaker.
Is he? I have to look him up. But it's just anytime you're speaking on stage or on camera, think about what you're interested in from a television perspective, right? You don't want to be told. You may want to be told, and then you want to be advised, and you want to be listened to. These are all things that, and you want to be entertained at the end of the day. And there's emotions that have to be engaged. So understand your audience. This is where you talk to the meeting planner and ask, hey, be okay asking, what's the ethnic background of the attendees? What's the gender, predominant gender? What is the income level? What are they self-employed? Are they W-2? These things are vitally important because if I have a message that's prepared for a group of collegiate athletes, male and female, hired athletes, but I show up and it's 45 women who are all retired administrative assistants, all of them Caucasian. I can't use sports analogies with them. There's a lot of analogies I just can't use. So immediately I just switched my talk. And we're talking like 40, I'd say 50 and above. So I couldn't be as aggressive or assertive.
Sure.
I had to tone it down because they see me as like their grandson, right? Maybe adopted, but it's if you know your audience, and then don't just stand in front of your lectern, your podium. Don't just stand there. Don't just stand on stage. Be okay utilizing the flow of the room. But all of this goes into the presentation.
Yeah.
And I ask questions. How big is the room? Is it squared? Is it rectangled? Is it an amphitheater? Is it flat? Right? How high are the ceilings? Because that tells you how much you can project your voice or you can't. I think these are all very important questions. Any good speaker who's running a speaking business should ask so they know how to better prepare.
Absolutely. And really anyone who wants exposure in their business, in the world of, of whether it's speaking or presenting on camera or doing webinars or doing whatever, right?
Truth.
It's about promoting your business or the company that you work for.
Speaking of promoting, don't ever go live from a speaking engagement. And this is where you say, why, Dom? And then
Why would that be, Dom?
Well, this is why. Because you're typically going to go live from your cell phone. Your cell phone has great quality 5 to 6 feet away. If you are 5 to 6 feet away, it means it's typically on a table in front of you, and now your audience is forced to look at your genitals on up. But how many times have we seen that? Speakers up close and the camera's on the table and that's all they see.
Sure.
Or it's too far back and you're blurred. Give the respect to the attendees, the people that decided to wake up on their weekend, come see you speak, and
Potentially paid for tickets.
Potentially paid for tickets. Don't go live. Now, always record. Bring your own video equipment if you have it, but get it recorded. That way you can take the content home, edit it, splice it, and distribute it. That's what you guys do to all the different social media platforms. Just a little nugget.
That's a excellent point. One thing that always drives me nuts, and you see it in all kinds of different presentations, is when someone wants to cover too much.
Oh, man.
I'm going to teach you the 49 things that you need to know about social media optimization.
Right.
Or whatever. But no one is ever going to remember 49 things.
No.
No one's going to remember 10 things in most cases. First of all, they're going to remember how you made them feel.
Exactly.
More than anything. And if they remember anything, my rule of thumb is you stick to 3. And I think
at most, you're absolutely correct.
Or it's one point with 3 sub-points, right? One topic.
I like that.
3 sub-points as far as here's what you're going to take away and here's what you're going to learn.
And during those sub-points, you want to, if we're using sub-points, oftentimes these are things that you've done. So you may have done them with a client. You may have, if you're an instructor, you've done them with a class. So if you're going to bring up whatever those sub-points are, inject a short story, where these sub-points worked. For example, if I'm using, let's say, speaker coaching, because that's what I do, and I talk about command presence, how to control the audience with your voice. And I will use an example of a young lady that I coached recently, and I say, hey, one of the things you want to do is have command presence on stage with your voice. You want to be able to orate effectively so that your audience can feel basically the vibrations of your voice coming through to them. Now, maybe being gender specific, you don't have the ex-military, ex-cop voice. I had a client named April, and she is 5'2", very timid. So what she was able to do was she was able to soften her voice and still had the same impact. So don't mirror another speaker that has a background that you don't have, right? So that's an example.
Yeah, that's an excellent example. And one thing that I've done is adjust the speed, because I felt like I didn't have as much inflection in
I can see that.
my tone.
Right.
And so I would get that's why I brought up speed before. I'd get real fast and then slow it down and potentially maybe get a little bit louder, but at certain parts, and then a little bit softer, but I don't have the same natural range in my voice that I can carry on for a 45 or hour long, 45 minute or hour long presentation.
No, that's not what any audience wants. Ugh. Too much like college.
But I another point that you brought up that I want to circle back to, because you went over it kind of fast, is you told a story.
Storytelling's so huge.
So why would you tell a story as opposed to just listing a bunch of data that supports what you said?
So that the question you asked was why tell a story as opposed to providing just data?
Yeah.
And from initially, many of you watching would say, well, duh, I know why. Well, do you really? Let me explain why. Data I had to plug that in there.
Data's the robot from Star Trek.
Exactly. is very important. But a story, because it's statistics typically, a story humanizes it.
Exactly.
And if you're trying to convey a message to an audience, they'll never get into their feelings if you don't humanize the stats.
You're absolutely right. Something that I've heard Seth Godin say many times is people don't buy products, services, or widgets.
Right.
They buy stories, narratives, and things that make sense and that they can relate to.
Definitely.
That goes hand in hand with that, and it's something that I've always found is true as well, is telling stories. And if you don't have a story, an analogy can work.
Or somebody else's story.
Yeah, or someone else's story.
Right.
Yeah, I just used what Seth said.
You did. There it is. But if you look at movies, a lot of movies nowadays, they'll start with the end.
Yeah.
And then that hooks you.
Absolutely.
Like, I want to know how they got there. And 2 hours later, right, you're watching the movie and you're going through the emotions. And one of the things that I've learned, no matter what I'm talking about, and my mom used to tell me this as a kid, speak so that a blind man can see. So,
I've heard you say that before.
I use it a lot because it's true. Your audience will oftentimes, as you're talking, go to their phone. They'll do a bunch of stuff other than listen to you. But if you tell a story in a way that engages the senses and puts the person in the seat in the place that you were or that you're talking about, they won't go to their phone.
Absolutely right. And the more engaged they are, the more likely they are to actually learn what you have and be persuaded by that information.
Definitely.
Right? I mean,
Definitely.
That's the whole point there is to get them to take some sort of action, whether you're selling or you're driving, you're trying to drive them to make a change in their life or motivate them to do something.
Exactly. You should know what you want from your audience before you get on stage. So if you're selling and there's an audience of 1,000 people, you should have a number. I want to sell 10 of my high ticket prices or my high ticket items. If you are inspiring, you should know that, okay, there's 100 people in the audience. I'm going to, sometimes in inspiration talks, I will say make them smile, laugh, think, and cry.
Yeah.
So you probably want to have a couple, non-dry eyes in the audience.
Absolutely.
And one of the tricks, it's something I do.
I don't think there's anything wrong with trick because this is all about becoming more effective in that craft.
Right. Just don't trick your audience. But one of the things that I do to persuade them is I show up probably an hour early to the event. I like to be the first one in the room. And the reason, without getting too deep, I need to know what the room feels like without anybody in it. Because as people start to walk in, I get to see whether or not they're happy, whether they're sad, whether they're engaged, they're not engaged, because oftentimes it's in the morning. And let's be honest, they don't want to be there. They just know they have to be there, or somebody's pulling them there. So when they come in the door, even if it's not my event, they see my face in some social media feed, I want to shake their hand. Because don't forget, as a speaker, and somebody sees you on social media first, and they only see you as a speaker, there's like this low-key celebrity vibe that they put on you, right? You may not think it, or you might, but they put that on you. So when you greet them and shake their hand, and especially if you're there with like 7 other speakers, but you're the only one that does this, they're moved, they're touched, they want to pay attention. And then from stage while you're talking, remember 3 or 4 names. And you go, as you're talking, in the middle of your talk, you could say something to the effect of, I saw Sarah walk into the room. And one of the things I noticed about Sarah is her smile. How many of you right now are actively smiling? Or maybe you have to look like you don't want to be here. I need everybody to look at Sarah, right? And all of a sudden, Sarah blushes, right? She's smiling. But you just made Sarah feel important.
What I like about that is it brings a whole new level of just being authentic.
Yes.
Kind of like you talked about. There's certain people who just have the same presentation or the same speech or the same whatever that they go through.
Right.
And the problem with that is you go to one event. I mean, we've all seen it. You go to one event, you hear someone, or you see them on YouTube or whatever, and then they go and verbatim give the same speech, the same examples, the same everything.
Same blazer.
And
it's like a uniform.
It's one of these things where I'm all about certain talking points you have in your bullets down, right? But that's one of the reasons why I never went completely scripted either. I mean,
I'm so not scripted.
I have to be able to improvise.
Yes.
I have bullet points. Or in a lot of my presentations, I've had slides.
Right.
And so it helps me keep track of where I'm at so I don't go way off on a tangent.
Are your slides filled with paragraphs, or are they just like the audience sees your slide? It's just a point.
It's a visual representation.
I like that.
If there's words on there, it's a couple bullet points.
Okay.
Right? As just to emphasize something. Mm-hmm. But no, it's more of about something for them to look at. If it's on a webinar, something for them to look at just in general, maybe that illustrates what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Or if it's in a live setting, something for them to potentially look at other than me. And
they take pictures of it.
Looking up, they do take pictures of it and ask for the slide deck. And I always think, what are you going to do with this? This is a bunch of random pictures with no context behind it.
Do you give it to them?
But I've given it to. Yeah.
I would suggest, and you probably do this, but if you're going to speak from stage and you have a slide, every slide should have your hashtag, your website, your social media handles, not just or your branding. Like right above here, you see my branding, you see Jimmy's branding. Like that should be on every slide because people do
everything that you do.
Oh yeah, everything
videos,
that you do.
Stuff
Yeah,
like that as well.
And it's really easy. Like I know you guys do it on a professional level, but say somebody is in a position where they're just starting out. Like all of my Instagram videos at Dom Faussette, you'll see my little logo in the bottom, right? And it doesn't say Think React Lead, but it's my logo. And you do it enough, people are going to know, oh, that's the Think React Lead logo, or that's the Why Not Results logo, right? So it's very important that you just don't put slides up or just post a video, but you actually brand the video.
Brand it properly.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I completely
You said
agree.
You said properly. What do you mean by that?
Well, effectively. I mean, I don't properly meaning. I guess that it's always there. It helps you stay relevant. I always think of it's the golden arches concept, right? Everybody knows what that is.
Yes.
They see that logo. They know what I see a yellow M on a Word doc.
Automatically McDonald's. I'm hungry.
There's an association there.
Right.
Or I have a stomach ache.
I like McDonald's. I just,
it goes
matter of fact,
way.
had McDonald's anyways.
But it's what it is.
Right.
And that's an important part. And so always having that on there, whether it's a video, a webinar, even anything you do, if your company puts out a white paper or puts out,
I can see that.
Submit something to someone else's blog, you should still have your branding on it.
You totally should.
Even if it's a co-branded piece of content.
And from a branding perspective, as a speaker, I'm going to take that a step further and say your outfits that you wear on stage, there should be a brand, right? So there's two ways I show up on stage. One, either in a suit. I don't ever wear a tie, so I'll wear a blazer, matching slacks, shoes, socks, and a shirt comparable to this. Or I will. You're laughing about what I'm about to say.
Because you included socks was what I was.
Well, some speakers don't wear socks.
Okay.
Have you ever? I don't know why I'm yelling at you.
I don't. Me neither.
Like if you go to Florida, there's a lot of people that just don't wear socks.
I see what you're saying.
Right. See, I'm a traveled speaker. Anyways, I digress.
Well, I still haven't seen anyone walk out there in flip-flops or anything, but
I have.
Okay.
Some people that's just their brand. They're usually uber rich.
Sure.
Right. Like I'm not a flip. Like you will never see me in flip-flops.
Yeah.
Let me hit a billion. Excuse me. Like I'm maybe some flip-flops, but
maybe at that point.
Maybe. But understand what your brand is. The other times I wear jeans and cowboy boots, right? What? Yes, I saw your. I like cowboy boots. I got a couple pair. But anyways, those are my two things that I wear. But I don't ever wear. It's rare that I wear a T-shirt on a large stage. Now, in a mastermind, like a home mastermind or a workshop, I might have a blazer and then a branded T-shirt on it. It'll have my logo on it. So understand that everything that you do, webinar, stage, whatever it is, outside of your talking points. Like you need to be dialed in on what you look like, and there needs to be a reason for every little nuance of how you show up on camera and how you show up on stage.
Absolutely, yeah. I couldn't agree more with that as far as that your point in general. I don't know why I couldn't finish.
I drove it
sentence.
home.
Yeah.
Yes.
You left me speechless.
You probably could have just stopped there. I couldn't have agreed more. I left them speechless, right? Right. Make them smile, make them laugh, make them think, leave them speechless.
That's right. So as far as we talked about the tone, we talked about not including too much in your presentation or in your speech. Let's talk a little bit about kind of setting up the close based on what someone ideally learned or felt. Does that make sense?
No, it makes complete sense. The close. I love the close. This is where you make the money, right? And when I say the money, this is where the brand equity comes into place. The close will typically start with you reiterating what you've covered. Now, if you're like me and you don't use a PowerPoint, you better know your talking points. And you better be able to.
Yeah.
A good speaker can do this. A good speaker can hear what they said as they're talking about the next point, right? So it's not just me throwing words out there and forgetting what I said. I threw it out there. I heard what I said. Now I'm watching how it impacted the audience as my mouth is still moving, talking about another point. Right, it comes with practice. Do a lot of videos on social media.
Lots of practice.
Yeah, a lot of practice. But the close starts with reiterating. So today we talked about A, B, C. This is the reason why A, B, and C are so important, not just in my life, not just in my clients' lives, but it's going to be important in yours. Many of you right now struggle with D, E, F. Implement A, B, and C into your life every single day of your life, and the end result, heck, it could be like me, where I was doing X. I wasn't doing X. I was doing Y. We don't want to do X. I was doing Y, but now I'm here. Or don't use yourself if you're not comfortable. Use a client, right? But you put a bow on it. And if you're real good, you say something to the effect of, this is if you're selling. You could say, I've got 10, if there's a room of 100, the first 10 people will get this plus DEF or GHI, as an added bonus. All right, all you got to do is go to the back of the room and do the thing, right? So that's a very light close for a small audience for selling. Now, a close just to button up what you're saying, because how many times have you been not on stage, but you've heard a speaker, they're trying to close, but they can't tie it.
Well, and that's something I don't do naturally, which is why I have to have it buttoned up ahead of time and have to have it prepared and practice and everything like that.
Okay. So when you say practice, and I'm glad you brought this up, how do you practice your talks?
I do them over and over and over again.
Okay.
But not just, I do them in sections over and over. Again, because it's exhausting.
You can't do a 45-minute talk 5 times. Yeah, you wear yourself out.
But yeah, getting certain parts buttoned up, and it's usually while I'm preparing it.
Okay, that makes sense.
And sort of it's a progression. And then,
I got you.
But yeah, it's the majority of what I've done are oftentimes made up of aspects of things that I'm pulling from every presentation is in many ways unique, but some of the stories, analogies, things like that are from other speeches or other presentations that I've done before as well.
That makes sense.
It's, because these are things that I know connect with people and I know how to appropriately explain them as well. So
that makes complete sense. So if you struggle, forget about selling, but you struggle coming to the end of something, start doing videos. And in videos, so this is how I do my videos. I'll start them with, welcome to Think, React, Lead. My name's Dom Fawcett, executive coach and leadership speaker. I use that voice.
Yeah, you do.
And at the end of my videos, I'll say, hey, thank you again for watching. This is Dom Fawcett with Think, React, Lead, your executive coach and leadership speaker. Keyword there is your executive coach and leadership speaker. I've probably got 500 to 1,000 videos where I do that. And that gives me a beginning and an end, and then the middle are the talking points. But from stage, my thing is I salute because I'm a veteran, and so let me tell you why I do this. One, I am a veteran, but a lot of my talks, I will start with, how many of you have served in the United States military? Or how many of you have children that have served? Please stand up. They'll stand up, I'll salute them. That, like any speaker that comes up after me, I feel sorry for them, because what I've just done is I've connected emotionally with, like, everybody gets goosebumps when that happens. And then it also lets the audience know I served. Like, it gives me authority being on stage, like, this dude served, like, he's got to be good, right? And then towards the end, anytime I'm moving along in the speech, I will say, and this is a non-sales environment, once again, I'm Dom Fawcett, your executive coach and leadership speaker. Thank you for your time. and I give them a solid salute. And I do that at the end of many of my speeches. And to this day, I've yet to not have a standing ovation. Now, I don't do it for the standing ovation, but there's that level of respect.
Yeah, and I think it also goes back to the brand awareness as well.
It's branding. It is branding.
It's reminding them who you are, what you're associated with, and where you've come from as well. Because your prior military experience is a big part of your brand and what's made you what you are today.
I would totally agree. So maybe if you didn't serve, it's fine, right? Did that sound a little pompous? Yeah, a little bit. It's okay. It's okay. You made that judgment. You're like, no. It's find a thing. So my company is Think, React, Lead. It's think as an executive, react like a soldier, and lead. So I might tell my audience that as you leave here, don't forget to think as an executive, react like a soldier, and lead in all aspects of your life. I might say that. I'll say that on a webinar because the salute thing just doesn't have the same impact on a way. It just looks weird. Yeah, it just looks.
A video real quick of you doing it.
Don't do that, please, because they're out there. But it's button up. Know what your mantra is, right? One of my primary mantra is change one life every day for the rest of my life. So I might tell an audience, don't forget to change one life every day for the rest of your life, right? But it depends on what I talked about. So have I think they call it like a slogan, or a call to action. Have a call to action.
Yeah, I think of call to actions differently, but
tell me what you think of.
I think of them more from a marketing perspective, as far as, so purchasing could be a call to action in certain presentations, or hey, go here, text to this number, or go fill out this form, or download this ebook.
So that's sales, right? That is marketing.
Yeah.
Mine is that what I gave was more inspirational, motivational.
Yeah.
But to your point,
it's just not what I think of when you said call to action.
So what would you call that?
Only point. I look at that 100% as branding, and I mean it's a solid way to close your presentation.
So you're not knocking what I've
Definitely
said.
not. No, just the description of calling it a call to action.
Not a call to action. So in this world, I'm giving you a call to take action in your life. Ooh.
There you go. A little play on words.
A little bit. Yeah. But at the end of the day, whether you do what Jimmy does or what I do, it lets your audience know you're done.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so just to kind of sum that portion up, because the closing we've talked about for a few minutes here. So you want to reiterate what they've learned.
Correct.
And one way I've heard that described before is you want to shift. Anytime you're trying to be persuasive, you're trying to persuade them to think differently than when you started this. When they started this video, came into this room, you want them to think and act differently afterwards.
Very true.
And so what you're doing is you're changing their perception on a specific topic. Mm-hmm. So if your business makes something more simple, right? You take something that they think is difficult and you show them how it can be simple. And so you reiterate those things at the end about how that happened, and then you direct to whatever the next step is. If that's purchasing, if it's doing something else, and then you sign off the way that.
Sign off, I like that.
The way that you've said.
I learned in radio, I have a radio show here in Phoenix, Arizona, that's a plug. And it's called Think, React, Lead Radio on 960 The Patriot. But some people might come into your radio show later on. Some people might come into into the room while you're speaking halfway through. Some people might come to your webinar late. So what you're doing is you're letting those that showed up later, you're letting them know what they've missed. So that they don't okay, why am I here? Oh, he talked about social media, he talked about command presence and how to speak on TV. Oh, I definitely want to buy the product. Or I definitely want to go back and watch this.
Yeah, absolutely. And you reiterate it, because also if you're finishing a 45-minute or half-hour presentation, they may not remember the first point. Because especially if you've moved them on the second and third, which is all the more reason why you don't have 50 or 15 or 20 or 10.
Seriously.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, connect with people personally and keep things moving along and give people things that they learn by feeling a certain way. And does that sum up?
Well, I don't even need to add to it. It does. That sums it up. You took them through the emotional ride, and there, I'll stop talking.
All right, well, I'm Jimmy Talbert.
I'm Dom Faussette.
Thank you so much for joining today. This is Here's Why, where we teach entrepreneurs, small businesses, and startups how to better or how to improve their sales and marketing. I'm working on my outro there, based on your recommendation.
Yes, I might know a good coach. But anyways.
Sign off. Thank you very much.
I just saluted. Oh, man.